Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Indie Game Movement, the podcast that talks about the marketing and business of indie games. I'm Andrew Pappas, your host today, and this is episode 118, where we're going to be talking about how indie devs can understand and influence consumer behavior. Now, the marketing of indie games must always be consumer-focused, ensuring that your product fulfills a need and relevant place in a gamer's collection. However, we know it can be really difficult to determine what exactly a customer really wants. So thankfully, our guest today is going to share a recent study that he's finished about user behavior, and he provides insights on how indie devs can better influence that behavior, which ultimately leads to more game sales. So that's what we're going to be talking about right here today on Indie Game Movement. Hey everybody, welcome back, and today I have Chris Zukowski with us, who is another fellow indie game marketer. Chris, how's it going?
Oh, it's great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. So, as I mentioned, Chris is an indie game marketer. He's done some GDC talks. He's worked with a lot of different types of indie devs, from big to small, and that just really covers them in a quick synopsis. But, Chris, I'm going to let you take the rest. Give us a little bit more intro about what you do for indie devs, and also if you can or would like to, just let us know what you do in your personal life, like what you do for fun and things like that.
Oh, great. Thanks. Yeah. So as you mentioned, I'm a game designer, but also a marketer. So what I do really as on the consulting side is I help other small studios mostly kind of set up their marketing funnels. And that's just a really technical term for saying getting somebody who doesn't know about your game all the way down and setting up all the systems so that they like absolutely fall in love with you and your studio and want to buy every single game that you possibly make. So that's what I really help studios do, is design that system. And I kind of practice a form of marketing called direct response marketing, which is a little bit different than what you commonly hear, which is like brand marketing. I really try and focus on getting these kind of one-to-one connections between the studio and their fans. It really gets stronger bonds, and it really is an easier marketing if you don't have a lot of money and you don't have like this big exposure button that you can hit. So it's a really tactical style of marketing that I focus on. And then I also make games. I specialize in making 2D games. I have 2 games out on Steam. I've made mobile games before that. But I really focus on like 2D side-scrolling hardcore games that are really good to speed run, that sort of thing. And actually, your audience is so great, and I'm so glad you had me. I'm willing to give my first game, one screen platformer, away for free for your listeners.
Oh, sweet.
If they're interested, all they have to do is just email me at iamchriszukowski@gmail.com. You don't even have to beg for the key or anything. It's no questions asked. Just in the subject line, say Indie Game Movement, and you can leave the subject line blank or the rest of the body blank, and I'll just, no questions asked, just send you a Steam key, because I think your audience is awesome. So yeah, if anybody's listening and wants a free game, just email me.
All right. Well, you heard it directly from Chris, guys. That's a very generous offer and totally worth checking out. And I'll be sure to also include that in the show notes too. So if you guys are, whatever you're in the middle of doing right now, you can just check out the show notes, and we'll have that information in there so you can reach out to Chris for that free game. So Chris, thank you very much for doing that for us.
Hey, no problem.
All right. So let's get right into it. But before we do, I want to go through the Q Box round with you. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Q Box, it's just a series of random questions. I kind of semi-prepared for Chris, just kind of throwing them out there. It's going to be a kind of a Chris quick run gun style here. Chris, are you ready for these random questions I have for you?
I think I'm ready. Let's enter it.
All right. Dogs or cats?
Cats.
Okay. What's one thing that motivates you every day?
The pleasure of seeing people either read my blog posts or play my games. I just love to see other people interacting with stuff I made.
Sweet. Trains, planes, boats, or buses?
Planes.
Nice. What are you playing right now?
I am playing Dead Cells.
Oh.
I'm trying to learn all about the style of roguelites. Not rogues, but roguelites. So I'm really trying to study that genre.
Okay, sweet. What's your favorite meal?
My favorite what?
Meal.
Oh, meal. Tacos.
Tacos, that's a good one. And the last one, what is your favorite movie?
It sounds weird, but it's an Adam Sandler movie. I would have never thought I'd say an Adam Sandler movie. It's Punch Drunk Love. It's actually Paul Thomas Anderson with Adam Sandler, but it's such a good movie, and it's actually got this really crazy video game tie-in. There's these interstitial color fields, and that was done by this artist who actually worked in video games. He designed a lot of the cover art for. Yeah, he designed a lot of cover art for Rockstar games. But he killed himself by like walking into the ocean and just never came back.
Oh, wow.
And it's like this super tragic story, but the movie is great. It's really beautiful. So I would check it out. If you don't like Adam Sandler movies, this is not an Adam Sandler movie, but check it out.
Yeah. I remember seeing that a long time ago, and it was, it's very different from the normal Adam Sandler movies too, that people are probably more familiar with too, if I remember correctly.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So, no, good pick. I like that.
Hey everyone, Andrew here, and I just wanted to take a quick minute to say thank you so much for listening to Indie Game Movement and let you know about a few of the things that you could find helpful. As you may know, I co-founded RenGen Marketing, a company that provides consulting and managed services to indie devs. While this covers a lot, some of the areas I focus on are customized consulting sessions, online advertising, crowdfunding campaigns, and community management. So whether you're looking for a publisher, need to develop an effective marketing strategy, or just want someone else to handle your marketing so you can focus on your game, then I can definitely help. If you think you're ready to take the next step with your game's marketing, I'm more than happy to provide a complimentary consultation. Just drop me a line at andrew@rengenmarketing.com or fill out the contact form on our website at rengenmarketing.com. Again, thanks so much for listening and your support, as it really goes a long way. And as always, keep up the great work.
All right, cool. So we got through the Q Box round, and now we're just going to really jump in. And today's topic is how indie devs can understand and influence consumer behavior. So obviously everybody deals with this. It's an important topic. So I want to go ahead and kick this off, Chris, with, why is it important, practically speaking, for devs to pay attention to consumer behavior?
Yeah. So I'm originally, before I became a marketer, I was a UX designer, and I was always focused on how people interact with software and how they click on things and get lost. And there are so many ways that are in your way for getting people to buy your game. I mean, there's so much. It's so hard to get people to just want to buy your game. And you want to make it as easy as possible that once they decide they want your game, or even thinking about doing it, you make it as easy as possible. So it's really good to know what their behavior is. And the other reason they do that, you need to know that, is we don't have a lot of money. And so we have to be laser targeted with what we do spend money on and what's important. And when you understand their behavior, you can kind of figure out, oh, this is worth spending money on versus not this, because this happens automatically, or we don't have to do that. So it's really important to really have a good crystal clear vision of what makes somebody actually buy your game, because it'll go a lot further in your marketing.
Oh yeah, totally. So, and the reason why I wanted to kick off with this, because it really leads into the rest of the discussion. But let's start off with actually one thing that I found, and one of the main reasons I found you was a post, and you kind of put it out there. I think I saw it on Gama Sutra and a few other places too, which I thought was super helpful. And that is, you did this Steam research, and basically, if I remember correctly, you asked a few just people at random to record their habits in terms of how they interact on Steam and what ultimately led to their purchase. So the first thing I'm just curious about, what inspired you to start looking into the subject?
Yeah, well, like I said, I've got 2 games out on Steam, and it was right up front, right away, I knew I had to do something like this, because when you go to these store pages, and you upload your game to Steam, they have all these boxes where you have to say, what's the description of your game? What's your long description of the game? What's your short description? What's your third short description? All these boxes. And you're like, what? I don't even know what to put in this box. This is a short, I don't know why am I doing this as short? And so I was like, well, what are people looking for? What kind of answer do I need to type in this box? And so that's when I was like, I have no clue. And rather than just make it up or look to other people, I was like, okay, I'm going to ask a person who's going to be reading this page what they want to see. And that's where I got into the research. And so what I did was I found people that are kind of like my target demographic. You know, they buy a lot of games. People who buy indie games typically buy a lot of games. And so I looked for people who buy a lot of games, and I said, hey, I'll compensate you if you let me watch you browse Steam for half an hour. All you have to do is tell me what you're looking at, what you think is interesting, what makes you click this one versus not. You know, I'd watch them like pass over a game. I'd say like, why is that game not interesting to you? And so I really had them do what's called talk aloud, which is just describe everything that's going on in their brain so that I could hear it. And I recorded doing that, and then I wrote those articles that you mentioned, and hopefully you'll link them down in the show notes. Sure. But you could see videos of people browsing Steam.
Okay, cool. And how you were able to kind of define or determine who you wanted to be part of this? Did you just look up like user profiles, or how were you able to get that information, and then which led you to everything else you described?
Kind of what I did was I know my own audience because I have a community. I have a mailing list with a bunch of people on there, and I'd ask them. You know, I sometimes ask them to do surveys like how old you are, right. What kind of games you have. But then I just went to like Steam subreddits and Steam, the subreddits and forums, and approached people who are very engaged with Steam.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've filtered those, but I also filtered out people who either made games or were like somehow like streamers or something that's associated. Because I really want to just Joe Schmo, Jane Schmo, like down the middle gamers, not like because as we kind of get in our own head as marketers or developers, I don't even know how normal people buy games. I buy games for weird reasons. Like I said, I play Dead Cells because I want to know how roguelikes work. I don't even know what attracts people to games anymore. So I'm just like, okay, I'm going to find just a normal person. And that's kind of what my strategy was.
Okay. That sounds perfect too, because I mean, unless you get like, you have the capability, which let's face it, like practically none of us do, to get in some serious, crazy, like machine learning, like behavior analysis and all that junk, you really, other than that, and even with that, you don't really have a clue. So I think you approach it perfectly in terms of, finding who you're reaching out to and getting that really core person, like you said, your Joe Schmo or Jane Schmo, and really getting that info. Now, and then once you started doing that and started following these people around, like what were you surprised to find?
Yeah, I found so much stuff. It's hard. It was like very long blog posts. But the interesting thing is how much they care about genres. And this is kind of where, like, I'm not sure. I shouldn't be deciding how to make a page because I am not the typical user. People are very sticky to one or two genres. Okay. I saw a lot over and over. People were saying, hey, I like this genre, or no, not my genre. And that's really what they're trying to determine when they go to your Steam page is like, is this game the type of game I play? Like a lot of people are maybe story-based gamers. So they really like visual novels or first-person like horror games. And then there are other people who are like, I hate horror games, don't like them at all. I'm a strategy game player. So people really, just average people are very sticky about the genres because like I try everything. I look for what's popular. I'm across the board, but really people are very sticky to those genres. And that's what they're trying to figure out on your pages. They like the art by the time they get to your Steam page, but they're trying to slot your game into what they already know. So I know we always tell indie game devs like, be unique, be out there, throw out everything. You are out there. You don't even think about what's today. Don't. Like, I mean, have something that's unique. Have your unique selling proposition about your game. But it really should be somehow half of your game should be relatable. Like, hey, this is a Metroidvania with a weird hook, like you're a duck or something. I don't know what the hook would be, but you've got to really slot your game into what is existing. And I think that's really like the core of what my research was about, was how sticky they are. Okay,
cool. And I want to shift things a little bit too, real quick here. So we talked about like what was surprising, what people are gravitating towards. I know like wish lists are a big thing for people, and back in September, Steam switched up things with their algorithm, and then I've just heard a lot of people saying like, they took a hit on that. Now, in terms of like user behavior, and if they're focused on genres and stuff, and let's say, and you may have found this in your study or not, but like I guess in your opinion too, and what you've seen, how much does wishlist play in a factor in terms of ultimately leading up to a user's purchase decision? Because it sounds like genres is obviously a big thing, but depending on what's where they are